So hello, my name's Rob, this is Cattle Rabbit Scale Model Studio, and today I'm going to show you some uses for cork. Recently I've been painting up these little Imperial Fist infiltrators, and I wanted to give them a bit of a urban kind of setting. I'm not a big fan of using cork, but I found the texture of it is really good for road surfaces and things like that. So I'm going to show you using this guy here that I've recently painted up, how to make a cool little like road asphalt effect kind of tarmac of the surface with a bit more visual interest. So here I've got a plain base. This is a 32mm from Games Workshop, and I've got some offcuts of cork here. These are just scraps that I had left over, and the idea is what we want to do is dress the cork so it overlaps the base. I'm going to be using some really cheap super glue here. I think this cost me £1 from the local store, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to glue the bits on upside down so I know it overhangs. I'm not going to push all the bits of cork together, and yeah, I coated the glue onto the base, I put the cork bits together and I pushed it in, and that's really there is to this step. You can glue it on as you want, you could leave some bigger gaps. And then all I do is, following the edge of the base, I just carefully nip round with an old pair of hobby pliers, and I just work my way around the cork, following the shape of the base. I make a couple of passes with this, just nipping off the edges and just making sure it's nice and round. So then you're left with something that looks like this. Now, it does still look very corky, so what I'm doing here is using a hobby knife. I'm just scraping away some bits of the little cracked channels that the cork, where it doesn't quite marry up. I take some little chips out of the flat surface to simulate, you know, like pitting in the roadside, or, you know, damage to the road from various mortar equipment and stuff like that. And I just spend a bit of time just kind of channeling it out, making sure that it's quite definitive, and it's got a nice shape to it. Once I'm happy with it, it looks like this. Looks like any road that you probably see in the UK that the council hasn't prepared, and that's kind of the look we really want to go for, is I don't know, something along the M25. Now, this is a step that I like to do that maybe is optional. You might want to skip this step, but what I do is I get some liquid green stuff, I get a little bit of water on my brush, and I paint it all over the cork and let it dry. The reason I do this is because when it dries, it does toughen up the cork quite a bit and stops it being so soft and squidgy. That's one of the main problems I have with using cork for things like rocks and that. It always, to me, doesn't quite hold a miniature that well. Next, all I've done here is I've sprayed it with Mechanicus standard grey, and then in the deep bits I've just got a dark grey. Here I used Eshin Grey. I watered it down and I just painted it in the recess, making sure none of the cork was visible from any angle on the side. This can be a little bit depending on how you've cut it, but it's definitely worth doing. Next, all we're going to do is, with some dry brushes, I go over it with Mechanicus standard grey, then I dry brush Dawnstone, and then I come in with Administratum Grey. Here I really focus on the edges. Those being my four colours. You could leave it here if you wanted to. I'm actually going to do a little bit of a repeated process here by giving the whole thing a wash of Agrax Earthshade. And then I'm going to come back in with Dawnstone, followed by Administratum Grey, and I'm just going to repeat the process of dry brushing. The reason why I like to do this is the first passes add quite a bit of depth. Then I'm going to come in with a texture paint. This is Agrellan Earth, or Agrellan Earth as I've been calling it for many years. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this in two ways. Firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a little bit on a throwaway palette. This is a Pringles lid. I eat loads of Pringles, I love them. And these make great little disposable palettes. And I'm just going to add some water to that, and I'm going to paint it in just into the deepest recesses here, and some little where the pitting is, to simulate dirt has kind of gathered there. Don't be afraid to, if you do get some on there that maybe you don't want, wipe it away with your finger, use a cloth, smudge it in. You know, this all helps sell the effect of a little bit of a ruined landscape or destroyed city. And I'm just going to work my way around till I'm happy with how it looks with, you know, the simulated dust build-up. And then what I'll do is I'll actually apply this neatly. Here I work around all the edges. The big crack in the middle, I do put quite a lot in here to try and fill it, to make it look like dirt has kind of accumulated there. And you're left with this. It looks really, really cool here, but I do like to add a little bit more. If you've got any skulls, great, you could add a few little skulls, lodge some in the cracks, make it look like, you know, quite dystopian. Here, what I like to do is get some of the, I use the GW Tufts here because they're a great dead colour. And all I do is I just add a little tiny bit of super glue just to the back of them. Just like that. Apologies for the camera, it's having trouble focusing on what I'm doing here. And it was a new tube of super glue and it was very reluctant to come out. I struggled with this simple task quite a lot. And then all I do is I push it into the cracks and crevices. So like here we've got this lovely big bit, and I push it in, and then using the back of the hobby knife, I really push it down to force all of the little tough fibres upwards and to make it look like it's growing out. I also come in and I had a couple more tufts. I think another one did this to me. I didn't want to do skulls on this one because I really like the posing of the miniature. And if you wanted to, you could add a small yellow line to simulate a road or something like that. I've done those previously before and they do look really, really good. I plan on having these on a little bit of a diorama, so I didn't want to do that today. And that's really all there is to it. If you're here, thanks again for sticking around. Let us know what you're using your cork for, and if you found this helpful, do consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Take care.